Ballsy charges being brought against former President Donald Trump. I'm going to get into it today on a special edition of Equal Matters.
There's a conspiracy out there. You hear what I'm saying? There's a conspiracy. A C-O-N conspiracy.
Thanks for being here. This is just going to be an honest look at the charges that are faced by Donald Trump. 4 charges all in all. I'll save the opinions for you. I just want to run through some analysis here about what those charges are, who the co-conspirators are, and what the government's case is. The government's case is essentially this, that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, was part of a conspiracy to undo the election results, as if Donald Trump was some type of mafia boss. He was at the top, giving the orders to his 6 co-conspirators that are not named in this indictment, but we do know the identities of 5 of the 6. Co-conspirator number 1, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Co-conspirator number 2 is a Trump lawyer named John Eastman. He put a lot of those election memos out into existence, as did co-conspirator number 3, Sidney Powell. You might have remembered her. In particular, at the very beginning after the election, she was one of the more forceful ones, saying that there was fraud. Co-conspirator number 4 in Donald Trump's world was a guy named Jeffrey Clark, who was the acting assistant attorney general for the Department of Justice Civil Division. He was a big part of the conspiracy, according to the government documents inside the DOJ, trying to get the DOJ to look into and admit that there were fraud, despite the acting attorney general saying there was no evidence. Number 5 in the co-conspirator list is Kenneth Chesebro, or Cheesebro. Not exactly sure how to pronounce that name. He's a lawyer that was part of it. Co-conspirator number 6, not named. We'll get back to those co-conspirators here in just a moment, but here are the charges. Charge number 1 against Donald Trump: conspiracy to violate Americans' right to vote. Pretty self-explanatory, but the conspiracy part is super interesting because a conspiracy is an agreement between 2 or more people to commit an illegal act with intent to achieve a goal that moves towards a conclusion. The success of that is irrelevant. So the conspiracy to violate Americans' right to vote comes down to those efforts to overturn the election, the efforts to lie about the election. Again, these are according to government documents. Now, what the government documents also say is that Donald Trump has permission to lie, part of our First Amendment protections. But it's what he did beyond the lies is where the government is coming in. A lot of this stuff in this indictment is based on the January 6th Commission. So the conspiracy to violate Americans' right to vote. That is essentially the government saying that Trump tried to disenfranchise people to make sure that their votes didn't count so that he could win. Again, that's their case. That's what they're saying. The second charge against Trump is conspiracy to defraud the government. Now, this gets into the actions that Trump and his co-conspirators took, alleged in this document, that Trump at the top had his co-conspirators go to different states and challenge the rules, to talk to certain lawmakers. There were 7 states involved in this. Those 7 states, including Arizona, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, those states all appointed fake electors. What the document says is that Rudy Giuliani and some of the other co-conspirators reached out to people in those states to set up a fake electorate system where if the courts were able to overturn the election results or look into it, the alternative electors would be there, ready to vote for Donald Trump at the official January 6th ceremony where the electoral votes are officially counted. So the conspiracy to defraud the government comes down to that, because that initial plot started in Wisconsin, that they were going to have fake electors and have those fake electors, alternative electors we'll call them, vote for Donald Trump, as opposed to the actual electors voting for Joe Biden. Now, the reason that memo was circulated by one of the co-conspirators, co-conspirator number 5, Cheesebro, the lawyer, goes back to November 18th. That first memo stated that just in case the courts overturn the election, we have these votes and these electors ready to go. But that went beyond that. Initially, it was a just in case. In fact, how it was sold to most of the electors was a just in case. We can vote, And in case the courts find something like fraud in the election, our electoral votes will count instead of the electoral votes for Biden. So that's the conspiracy to defraud the government, because it became a plan to get the fake elector votes to Vice President Mike Pence in hope that Mike Pence, as Vice President, would thwart the Electoral College process on January 6th. Obviously, Pence didn't do that. What they talk about in this document, this indictment against Donald Trump, is just that. Trump went to Pence at least three times, to try to convince him that he could overturn the election all by himself, something Pence disagreed with Trump on 3 different times. That is also part of that conspiracy, because how Donald Trump went about his business, at least according to the government. So charge number 1, conspiracy to violate Americans' right to vote. So voters in those 7 states could have been disenfranchised, according to the government. Conspiracy to defraud the government with those fake electors. Obstructing an official proceeding is the 3rd charge, which is that, I forget the exact terminology of it, but that's what happens on January 6th every 4 years. So the electors vote in December based on the states. So for example, in Arizona, where I live, the 11 Electoral College votes had 11 electors, voted for Joe Biden. Now in Arizona, the Republican Party and Trump had a set of 11 other electors that would have voted for Donald Trump, and did. That got forwarded on to the White House. The White House tried to get it to Pence. Pence didn't take those fake electors, but that's the obstruction of an official proceeding. It also ties into January 6th. And then here's the 4th charge, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding. So now you have obstructing an official proceeding and conspiring to obstruct that official proceeding, also related to the January 6th Electoral College vote and certification of the election. The first part of the conspiracy is involving the fake electors. The second part of the alleged conspiracy in the government documents involves co-conspirator number 4, a guy named Jeffrey Clark. He was appointed to the Justice Department's Civil Division. He was really one of the proponents that the election was stolen and wanted the Department of Justice to do something about it. So the second part of this conspiracy charge involves that. It involves the work inside the DOJ, allegedly by Jeffrey Clark on Trump's behalf. So again, it gets back to this idea that Trump essentially, according to Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, was working like a boss, mob boss, who wanted an outcome, an illegal outcome, to overturn the election, and wanted to use every means at his disposal to try to do so, including access to the DOJ with this Jeffrey Clark guy. So the conspiracy comes in 2 parts. That first, that fake elector push, according to government. The second, inside the DOJ. So here's what the case seems to rely on. The defense that Trump has put out so far is that you can't prove that Donald Trump knew the election claims were a lie, because that's what this document says. And it goes through a lot of things that Trump said, Trump's attorney said, and a lot of things that Trump was told. So Jack Smith, the special counsel, and his team, they interviewed everyone around Trump. And the January 6th Commission interviewed everyone around Trump. And what they're saying is that the pressure that was put on, for example, the Arizona Speaker of the House, a guy named Rusty Bowers, was part of this conspiracy. The pressure put on Georgia officials to find almost 12,000 votes, as Trump once said, also in this document. Michigan was another one where 2 of the high-ups in the Michigan, I think, House of Representatives and Senate went to the White House. So Trump was trying to, according to this document, create this idea that he was a legitimate president based on a fraudulent election. So that's really what this case is all about. From here, it goes to a judge. The judge is named Tanya Chutkan. She's an Obama appointee. This case was randomly assigned to her, but here's what you need to know. You may have heard, if you've been listening to any coverage on the Trump story, this indictment, is that she's been very harsh, this judge, Judge Chutkan, on January 6th defendants, people that broke into the United States Capitol. So this is very interesting that we have a tough judge who once said on those January 6th that presidents are not kings, because Trump was trying to withhold some documents related to January 6th. This judge said no. The 6 co-conspirators have not been charged, but they could. One theory as to why they weren't officially named in the document, despite the fact that we know who they are, is hoping that more will I guess, testify on the government's behalf, which it appears that co-conspirator number one, Rudy Giuliani, did, because he admitted he lied. It seems to me they came to Rudy and said, look, man, we got you on conspiracy. We got you on obstructing an official proceeding. Tell us what you know. Could have happened. Who knows? But this is a very interesting case going forward because it has never been tried before, not on this level. That is obvious. A former president of the United States being treated like a mafia boss, that he had his 6 co-conspirators go do this work to try to overturn the election. And along the way, what they're saying, the government, is that Trump knew that the election was not fraudulent. The acting attorney general came to him several times, says, there's no fraud. We can't find any fraud. There was allegations of thousands of dead voters voting in Georgia that Trump put out there. I think the official came back, I saw 2 different numbers, as 2 dead people voted in Georgia or 12. So not enough to sway the election. What they're saying is, in Jack Smith's indictment document, is that Trump knew that, but still put the lie out there. And what the government also alleges, although they don't really charge Trump with insurrection or anything related to January 6th, but Jack Smith tries to make the case in the indictment that Trump's lies are what led to January 6th, because it led to people showing up, because Trump kept putting on Twitter all of those lies. Lies about Georgia, lies about Arizona, lies about Pennsylvania, lies about Michigan, and all of those things where he was told that they were not true. So that's really where this case is going to sit. Whether or not the government can convince people that Donald Trump lied, knew it, and then tried to obstruct an official proceeding by conspiring to obstruct that official proceeding, and then the conspiracy charges in addition to that to defraud the government and violate Americans' right to vote. So Trump will be in court this week to get this process started. This is his now 3rd indictment that he faces, and there's probably going to be a 4th in Georgia. All this while he's running for re-election. All of this requires lots of resources, lots of lawyers, and lots of money. So that's the challenge for Trump. And the other challenge is, how do you win this? How do you go about winning this case? I mean, that's going to be up to Trump's lawyers. But I want to get back to this definition of conspiracy so that we understand where the government is coming from here. An agreement between 2 people to commit an illegal act with intent to achieve a goal that moves towards conclusion. That is what they spell out in this document, that Trump and 6 people committed an illegal act, again, this is what the government is saying, with intent to achieve a goal. That goal was to overturn the election. And these 6 people plus Trump moved that goal towards a conclusion with the fake electors, with the pressure on Mike Pence, and with a few other things. That's what this case essentially is about. So from here, it's court time. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. It's in the hands of a judge. And from there, we find out the fate of Donald Trump based on these new charges, the 3rd indictment of a former president of the United States. We certainly live in interesting times, don't we? So what do you think? Let me know. rob@equalmatters.com is the email address. Find me on social. Just look for Rob Hunter Media. Thanks for being here. We'll continue to follow this case as it develops. But it's real interesting that a former president of the United States is being essentially tried as a mafia boss, alleged that he has unveiled a conspiracy to deprive Americans of their right to vote, to defraud the government, and to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiring to do just that on the January 6th day when the electors are official. My name is Rob Hunter. Thanks for being here on Equal Matters.